We're here, ladies and gentlemen, in this great institution to honour and acknowledge another institution, which is, of course, Cork City Football Club. Now, before we get started, there are just a few safety notices. I have to ask you to just check your emergency exits, if you wouldn't mind. No smoking. Is Patsy Frayne here? No smoking? Remember, Patsy used to smoke in the dugout, waiting to go on. And also, just note your exits. If anybody's phone goes off, ladies and gentlemen, right, oxygen masks are going to fall directly in front of your face. And finally, let's stay away from Roy, I have to say. This year, of course, the club celebrates its 30th anniversary. The current incarnation of Cork soccer, if you like, coming into existence in 1984. And that's not to forget all the other clubs down through the years in Cork soccer history. The Fordsons, Evergreen, Cork Alberts, Cork Athletic, Hibs and Celtic. It's also important at this stage to acknowledge the work of Forest, the supporters group that kept Cork City alive during its darkest days. But to be honest, I prefer to dwell on the glory days of the last 30 years, because Cork City Football Club, ladies and gentlemen, is my club. I've followed the club, the fortunes of the club, since '84, from the shed, and luckily enough, sometimes from the commentary box and the touchline, at home and abroad. And I've seen Cork become an integral part of the community life here, and indeed for the Cork exiles around the globe. I'm just from down the road, just between Magazine Road and Glashing Road, and for Christmas this year, my sister got me the fantastic Cork City calendar, the 30th anniversary. I hope you all have a copy, because they're still selling even though we're in March. Isn't that right, Tim? I've mine up in work in RT in Dublin, just annoying the hell out of it. So anyway, one of the early photos in the calendar in January, you might remember, it's in black and white, the old Turner's Cross, and it didn't look anything like it looks these days. And I was looking at it the other day, and I recognised more of the people behind the goal, more of the spectators, than I did of the players playing on the pitch that day. But I remember great days at Cork City, the first League Cup win over Eamon O'Keefe, with Eamon O'Keefe as manager, remember that? 87, I think, the 89 Cup final against Derry. I was working with RT Cork Local Radio at the time. You might remember Dave Barry in that campaign was struggling a lot with an injury, and I did say on one of the bulletins on air that Cork City midfielder Dave Barry is doubtful because he's suffering from a groin stain. That was almost the end of my fledgling career, but that particular cup final, you might remember, was watched by Alex Ferguson, and that's why Cork City centre-half at the time, Brian Carey, ended up joining Manchester United. Another Toker man, Dennis Irwin, joined United from Leeds around the same time, and of course a few years later they'll be joined by this man here, our special guest this evening, Roy Keane. I think as Cork people, we're lucky because the city has instilled in many of us a great sense of pride in who we are and where we come from. And I remember I had a Christian brother in Deer Park who once said that he wasn't from Cork himself, but he said, you guys are a bit different, he said, because especially in the sporting arena, you've got this Cork ambition. And we've seen that in many codes down through the years, in athletics and hurling and football and rugby, and in soccer as well. And where Cork City FC has been blessed over the last 30 years, I think is some of the outstanding characters that have been involved in the club at all sorts of levels. I'm looking at some of them now, but you know, at management level, behind the scenes, at secretary level, supporters, clubs, at players, of course. One of them, of course, is the current Cork City manager, John Caulfield. Holds the record appearances for the club. He's steeped in the club. He probably will, before the end of the season, die for the club the way he's going. But luckily, it's great to see the results are good, up there, top of the league, and long may that continue. But when John rang me last week, I was away for a week's break, and I thought, geez, what's John Caulfield ringing me for? And I thought it was because of the Evening Echo best Cork City 11 of all time, for the last 30 years anyway. Because along with many other people, I was asked to give my best, and sorry John, but Caulfield wasn't in it. It was hard though, because it was strictly, you had one keeper to choose from three, two full-backs, two centre-halves, two wingers, two midfielders, two strikers. So Phil Harrington and Biscuits was easy enough in goal. The full-backs were Declan Daly and Danny Murphy. Centre-halves were Derek Hall and Dan Murray. Ollie Cahill and Jerry McCabe were my wingers. And I won't forget, but the rest of them are down here. The great Patsy Frayne, alongside Dave Barry in midfield, and I put Morley with John O'Flynn up front. But It was tough, and I was dazed at this. I was looking at, why the Echo made me do that particular sort of 4-4-2, and I was thinking of all different combinations I could have had. I was trying to get Joe Gamble in there, and definitely trying to play George O'Callaghan in the hole, and I was trying to get Mick Conroy. How could we miss out on Mick, or Hoggy, or Billy Woods, or Graham Cummins, or not to mention Roy O'Donovan, or David Myler, or Kevin Doyle, or Shane Long. So who'd be a manager now? It's just not easy. I picked Noel O'Mahony, though, as the manager of my best ever Cork team, and that was over Damien and Dave Barry. Sorry, lads. Because Noel, God rest him, passed away last year, and he was a great link to, some fantastic passing Cork, some great moments on the playing field and as a manager. I remember one time at a match, and the players were out doing their warm-up, and they came back in, and they said to Noel, "Jesus, Noel, that pitch is fierce bumpy." "It is," he says, "lovely and bumpy. That's the way we play it." And that's the way he was. There were some brilliant trips at home and abroad. Who'll ever forget the famous Bayern Munich game? They had Barry scoring in Musgrave Park. So close. Obviously that game finished 1-1. The away game only losing 2-0. I was lucky enough to do commentary in that game. Donny Leahy was my co-commentator in the box that day. And when Davy Barry scored, Tony, he just jumped out of the commentary box. I nearly thought I'd lose him in Musgrave Park, and he went, "Oh Jesus!" It was a great moment. It really was. And Dave has been a part of many great moments for Cork City over the years. The Rebel Army under Pat Dolan, of course, and great European nights against Malmo and Nijmegen, winning the league again under Damien Richardson in 2005. What a great night that was, and what a great night afterwards in the Rochestown Park Hotel. Poor old Derry City, they were staying in that hotel. Everyone from Cork went back to celebrate that night, and I felt sorry for the opposition, but not that sorry. And winning the First Division title, do you remember Graham Cummins' last gasp goal up in Tolka Park? These were just brilliant moments in my life as a supporter and as a lover of the club, and in the life of everybody involved with the club. And that's what it's all about. That's what supporting your club is about, and having a connection with your community. The next generation, now you see the trophy here. It's the third year in a row that the under-19s, Cork City under-19s, have won their league, which is an absolutely remarkable achievement. And the club has a proud history, certainly, but it has a future too. There's no question about that. My 16-year-old daughter, we were living in Dublin a while at that stage when she was about 3, but she was made a mascot for Cork City when they were playing at Richmond Park in Chicor. I remember Decky Daly was the captain that day. You remember Deck? And Aoife at 3 was a bit scared, but he just took her by the hand up the steps in Richmond Park, and out she went. Now, at the time, Cork used to do a kind of a Glasgow Celtic huddle just before the game, and Aoife had been off kicking the ball, but she went to join the huddle, and I'd say the language is fairly choice, Decky, at that stage, but I'll never forget, we have the photograph of the lads in a huddle and Decky with his 2 arms around the 3-year-old's ears just to make sure she wouldn't hear the industrial language that was going on. And only 2 weeks ago, my little boy went to Turner's Cross at 2.5 for the very first time. So, it's a connection that I hope the supporters and the people that love football in this city will never, ever lose. This is our city and our club and our team. And as far as I'm concerned, Cork City Football Club is as much a part of the culture of this region as our music, our art, or indeed our education. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to put your hands together for our first speaker this evening. And we'd like to thank him for the use of the hall as well, of course. It's the President of UCC. Would you please welcome Dr. Michael Murphy.
Thank you very much, Tony. You've all been standing, and you're going to be standing, so the 7-page script is going to be reduced to 1.5. As Tony said, we are delighted to have the opportunity to give you the loan of the hall. And so whoever you are most welcome to the Isle of Max at UCC. Protocol demands that I recognise specifically mayors and deputy mayors. Noel, thank you very much, Council Mayor, for joining us for a real community occasion. We're delighted, absolutely delighted, to have this opportunity. It's celebrating a relationship that formed formally about 2 years ago, and it is a real privilege for us and very important to us that the logo of the coat of arms of the university is on the jersey. It's on the back at the moment, but when Minister Quinn decides to loosen the purse strings, we might be able to afford the front of the jersey in a few years' time, and we look forward to that. Just to say that sport is hugely important to the university. At every sporting event I point out that the experience on the field and around the management of sport is practically as important as anything that young people learn in our classrooms. And ever since the university was set up, 1845, we have celebrated sport. Originally, John A. Murphy pointed out it was all rugby. There was nothing practically in the first 50 years, but I'm delighted to say that we now have some 60 clubs in the campus, all living harmoniously, and particularly harmoniously with the soccer club. We're also celebrating the fact that the club's policy and the initiative that we're talking about here today also recognises the importance of education for those who engage in sport on a professional basis. And it is absolutely terrific that we have the opportunity in UCC to support that philosophy. In this age, diversity of the student body is critical to us so that we shape young people appropriately for future living. But it is also critical that we have diversity in the backgrounds of our students. Everybody benefits from education and higher education and should have the chance to have one. And this kind of initiative enables us to deliver that philosophy here at UCC. It doesn't happen by chance, it also requires resources, and you know full well that there's a purpose to this occasion, and that is to encourage more people who have the capacity to enable young people to benefit from this programme, and particularly for the footballers in the City Club to come to UCC and have that benefit. And I want to celebrate an exemplar in that regard, because you're not here to listen to me, I know that, but we have with us this evening Roy Keane. I am required to address him as Dr. Roy Keane because he has free grazing rights on the quad for the past 10 years, and I have permission to say that once he was conferred with the degree, he became an academic and went to Saipan. I have the permission to say that. But only in the past 2 years, Roy has actually supported a scholarship programme here at UCC, for which we are extremely grateful. I played a bit of a trick on him in that I sent him John A. Murphy's book, The History of the Mardyke. And in it, on page 111, there's a young fella, aged about 9 or 10, getting what I thought was his first piece of silver. And I sent the note to Roy and said, "We got your first silver at UCC, can we part some of yours from you?" But that is what we're about this evening, about celebrating something that is a wonderful initiative that we're delighted to be a part of. And can I ask you can I strongly recommend the platinum level when you're participating. I promised one last point, and that was just a little anecdote of the importance of soccer. One of our most distinguished graduates is from Mayfield. He's the head of nuclear science at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. A Mayfield boy, a Farna boy, and a UCC boy. It is very important that we remain connected to our successful graduates. And what brings him back to Cork every year, there's the mother, of course, who's still up there, but it's the kids, his own kids, Boston-born, who want to play in the Glanmire soccer leagues during the summer. Just an example of, again, another ancillary benefit. So it's important to us. We're delighted to give you the loan of the hall, and we wish City and the partnership every success in the years ahead. Platinum membership, guys.